In this last segment on file permissions, I'll show you how to quickly create a folder with the default or correct permissions for group ownership. And then we'll talk about umask and what exactly it does on the system. First thing I want to show you is that the special permissions have numbers associated with them also. So if I man smod and then I search for sticky, you can see right here that the set user ID is 4, which kind of corresponds 4 letters in user. 4 set group, 2 or more is a group, is 2, and sticky is 1. So we can use that information to set the directory up. Now I don't even have to use the chmod command to set the permissions. There is actually, if I type make dir -- help, I can use the mode argument to actually create the directory and set the permissions at the same time. So let's go ahead and try that. Now, because I am going to include sticky bits, the sticky bit and the set group bit, I will have to change the way the command looks a little bit. So let me type make dir /HR. Oops, got to put the mod in there. And here's where it's going. Now the sticky is a 1, the set group is a 2, so I'll put a 3, then a 0, then a 7, then a 0. And what that means is this first little placeholder is reserved for the special bits. So that will add the sticky in the set group. Then the user position will get 0, the group will get everything, and everybody else will get 0 on that folder. And I'll say HR, and then I'll just continue the command, and I'll chown the HR group, change the ownership to HR for that, and then finally I'll ask it to actually display the output. So with this one command, I create the directory with the correct permissions, then this runs, it chowns the directory and changes the ownership, group ownership. Remember, the little colon there tells it that I'm changing the group, and then it'll show us the output of exactly what we've done. So I press enter, and there we go. So there is one command that accomplishes all of that. And next thing I want to talk about is umask. And what is umask anyway? So if I type umask here, you'll see these numbers now. I want you to notice they correspond with the 4 places that we have here. And what this is doing, if you remember your numeric notation, a 2 is a W. So what this is saying is that any file that root creates, subtract W from. Because by default, when a folder is created on the system, the folder actually gets, let me see if I can get my pen going here. There we go. So a folder starts out with a default permission of 777, and a file on the system starts out with a default permission of 666. This makes sure that the W, because remember, this is very dangerous to assign to folders by default. So the umask job is to subtract the W from the default folder and from the default file also. So what we end up with is a 755 on any folder that root will create. And that secures it from other users possibly deleting files and folders that they shouldn't be able to delete. You can modify your umask. Typically, you're not going to do it. You're going to leave your umask alone and just change the permissions as you see necessary. But you can change it if you want to. So let me get out of here. And I'll just make a directory by default. We'll call it HR Tech. And there we go. So we see exactly what I said. There's a 7 because that's root owns it. Then a 5 for the group root, just being very secure. And of course, that's the big one. A 5 for everybody else in the system. So we can traverse the files and folders, but we can't write to them unless we're given the privilege to do so. So that's umask and using the numeric notation for creating a directory. Next, we'll talk about quotas, and I'll give you a quick overview of quotas and what we do with quotas on the system.